You are currently the party in government, probably for the foreseeable future. Still, a very difficult week for the ANC, which has done so much for this country. To look at these results over the last few hours must have been very tough.
We're looking at it in both ways. A difficult week, but also a week to celebrate that we have been a governing party that protected the hard-won democracy, and hence the allowance of so many parties contesting, including independents.
It's a very magnanimous way of looking at it. There must be some disappointment. You've been part of the ANC for so long, and I think you would have to be stronger than a human being to look at that and think, gosh, you know, this really is saying something.
Yes, there are things that we have to look at and say, maybe we could have done better, and we can only look at them once we get all the results and identify where the support actually disappeared to. Of course, also the surprise of how the MKP has made it. It has taken from everybody, not only the ANC. And out of it, you have seen what has happened in KwaZulu-Natal. But we're quite also elated by the fact that we're initially, when these elections started, we were put at 36%, and we have actually surpassed the number.
What do you think would have happened if Cyril Ramaphosa wasn't the leader of the ANC? Was he helpful as president? I mean, was he helpful as leader of the ANC?
Listen, the man was damn good. Our strategy this time took us not to townships and public meetings in stadiums and stuff, but to a voting district. And the man went into a voting district. A day he would interact with no less than 30 households, and not individuals, households. And he would also interact with different sectors, young and old, and collectively with the leadership of the ANC and the Alliance, which was also very good in this instance, and the former leaders of the ANC. He was able to allow everybody to help him lead the ANC.
So you don't see him as responsible for the fact that you've fallen below 50%, that you've gone to 42?
No, it can be. It can be him, and it will not be him. We have to understand what had actually happened and understand who are those that didn't vote for us and where they are located.
There's a huge amount of speculation, and your next answer will affect the value of the rand, that there will be some people in the ANC who will try and remove Cyril Ramaphosa as president and as leader of the ANC. Do you think he's still going to be president after Parliament meets in 3 weeks' time?
Watch the space. He's going to be our candidate for presidency.
And he'll win?
He will win because the ANC itself is united behind him, and for where we are, we'll be able to interact with anyone and whoever, using the president as the face of the ANC.
A few things are going to happen now. So firstly, for the next few hours, people are going to count. Some people are going to go away and try and regroup. Some, like you and others, I'm sure will need some rest. And people will do some maths. Then there'll be some sort of discussion. I imagine the NEC will have a meeting, the NWC as well soon?
As you know, procedurally, the ANC never makes any determination from the floor of the results center. We take the results, we go to a meeting of the African National Congress, and the highest decision-making body, the NEC, then considers the recommendations that would have come from the officials, from the National Working Committee, and determine the way forward. Of immediate is to thank our volunteers, thank South Africans that everybody was concerned about the environment. It has been a peaceful exercise. There's no party that did what happened previously here, no disruptions. We all are talking to each other from one extreme to the other.
So obviously I have to ask about coalition negotiations.
Yes.
The NEC makes the decision on a recommendation from officials in the National Working Committee?
Yes, it does.
So it's processed first with the national officials,
yes,
and then the National Working Committee,
yes,
and then the NEC?
Yes. And if there has to be a broader consultation with our allies, we'll also do that, and sectors in this country. And will the
NEC be given a debate? Will there be a discussion about it, or would it just be this is what we've decided, this is what we've recommended, we really need to do this?
No. The NEC discusses every subject. Okay. There's no subject that is imposed upon the NEC. There may be recommendations, and those recommendations can be thrown out of the window, or those recommendations may be embraced. We don't actually think that there can be anything where the NEC will not want to apply its mind, especially on such a crucial matter.
the complexity of the situation. So you've got to have a coalition in Gauteng, someone's got to govern in KwaZulu-Natal, and you need then premiers in all of the other provinces that you're going to govern in, which is 6, and then you've got also the situation in national government. And all of these things run together. So can I presume that the NEC discussion around coalition in national government would perhaps have a bearing on Gauteng? You wouldn't just have one isolated discussion, they will all affect each other.
It will not have a bearing on Gauteng only. Remember, if you look at all parties that are in the national ballot, some of them have got a footprint in provinces. And therefore, you can't just look at the discussions around national government without looking at the permutations in the provinces. Secondly, we will also not be looking at a collaboration with other parties, because it may not be only through coalitions, it may be cooperation and agreement on certain principles. Sure. And delegation of responsibility. We should also be mindful of appointing women. Yes. Into the leadership, both in parliament, in cabinet, as well as premiers. As we speak now, our own SG is working on looking at all those issues, and we are in constant contact with him.
So that means then the NEC would decide who you'd go in a coalition with in Gauteng. It wouldn't just be Panyaza Lesufi.
The ANC is leading.
Yeah.
One of the things that we need to do in these discussions is to not undermine the will of the voters. In as much as you may want to work with anybody, yeah, we must not undermine what the voters did by giving the ANC an edge about all.
Yeah. What I'm trying to get to is...
And as we speak now, there is no candidate for any province.
Yeah.
The provinces are now expected to give us 3 names that the NEC will apply its mind on.
You have been in that position, you know what that can be like.
I know,
in Gauteng very closely.
Me.
What I'm trying to get to is the Gauteng ANC doesn't decide who to go in a coalition with in Gauteng. The NEC would have the final say.
Throughout the country.
Yes.
It will take the National Executive Committee, where Gauteng and any other province is represented, including the Northern Cape.
You're the Deputy Secretary General. You're in constant contact with the Secretary General. I'm sure you're in constant contact with the President. You'll be in the first meeting that will make a recommendation to the National Working Committee. EFF or DA? Go on.
Anyone who agrees with us on a set of principles.
And those are?
Stability for the country, contributing towards inclusive economic growth, ensuring that we broaden the space for job creation and employment, and most importantly, respect for the Constitution.
So the Constitution as it is. Umkhonto weSizwe doesn't want a constitution at all. They've already said they won't do a coalition with you. It sounds like the feeling is mutual. You won't do a coalition with them.
We're not begging for a relationship. We're calling on people to be patriotic and focus on what will bring stability in the country.
You know, people are reading so many tea leaves into what you're saying now in so many different directions. Are you worried that, so the election will be proclaimed this weekend, so 2 weeks from this weekend, Parliament must meet, the Constitution says MPs must elect a president. Do you think you will have a deal in time?
We'll have a way forward in time. In time, because it's only the ANC that has demonstrated an interest of ensuring that there's stability.